people like who get like full potential in their first record, I would say. You and Clutch grew up probably together, you know, and you find a way and your style maybe like 10 years maybe after forming the band, something like that, you know. Even on the second record there was already the foundation, I think, to what Clutch would become, you know. But yeah, to me, like on the outside, you know, it seemed like your playing really evolved with time, you know.
Well, I think with Clutch, I think the songwriting is always a constantly evolving process, and I don't really know. You know, I would say that a lot of what you're talking about, I think, really comes down to enjoying trying different guitars and different gear, whereas a lot of guitarists, like you said, like have reached their full potential on their first album, and then they just continue playing the exact same gear the whole time, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. They find what they like and they go with it. For me personally, it's fun to play new amps, try out new gear, try new pedals, and you know, bring some different gear on tour. You know, each tour, I love doing that. I love, you know, it's fun to play different amps for me. I think maybe songwriting-wise, our songs maybe got a bit more focused, whereas maybe the earlier stuff we wrote instrumentally, and then Neil would put his vocals on top of instrumental stuff, and over time it evolved more to where we had more time to work on our songs. You know, in the early days we really didn't have a lot of time to work on the songs. But since, you know, it's been a long time now, but over the past, I would say, maybe 10 years, we've had more time to work on the songs as a band and let the songs evolve naturally to where I guess it's different than the early days where nowadays we actually, well, for me personally, with the older stuff, I never thought about the vocals while I was sometimes even recording what we were playing. But nowadays we have much more time, and there's more time for me to work around the vocals. There's more time for everybody in the band to work around the vocals, and there's time for, you know, we just have more time for songwriting is really what it comes down to. We have our own, you know, we have our own great warehouse that we rent in Frederick, Maryland. And we're lucky to be able to do this full time and be able to, you know, dive headfirst into our material.
Yeah, okay. And about your guitar playing itself, we would say like, did it evolve, songwriting apart, you know, did it evolve itself like during this course of time, or everything you play now, you already got it in the beginning, you think?
No, I mean, I think it just constantly changes with different influences, different things that you might be listening to at the time. You know, we put out an instrumental album under the name the Bakerton Group,
the blue
and that obviously has considerably different influences than something like Earth Rocker, you know. So I think, you know, I think everybody in the band is able to incorporate their influences into Clutch's music, as opposed to some other bands where they feel like they have to be like something, you know, a certain set way that they have to sound like. But, you know, we're 4 different musicians and we all contribute to the music, so I think maybe that's what you're hearing. It's really
it's a nice chemistry, you know, like, and you guys got a nice chemistry because it's fun, because Clutch music, in a way, you can say it's no-brainer, it's simple, you know. You can say like you're straight up rock and roll band, you know, or hard rock band, but you don't sound like the typical hard rock band or rock and roll band. There's some different stuff, unique stuff underneath, you know, like even like you know, there's the blues element, of course, but even like something like it's not like really upfront. Like I think you guys got a funk element as well, although you don't play like tink, 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 but there's something funky about Clutch sound, I think, which is fun. You know, I don't know if it was an influence on you guys or not, like the funk music, but But yeah, there's something funky about what you're doing.
Oh,
Anyway.
I consider I consider us a 75% a funk band.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, really? Because yeah, it's straight up like riff oriented, but there's something, yeah, definitely funky about it.
We're doom influenced funk. A lot of our material is doom influenced funk. It sounds weird, but it surprisingly works.
Yeah, it's a nice description.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
But, you know, not every song sounds the same, so we're not trying to repeat ourselves. I think that's important for us to not write the same song over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think with a lot of bands, you could, you know, take 5 songs off their album and just interchange the riffs and make different songs. I feel like with Clutch, it's hard to do that. Like, take a riff off of one song and try to put it with another riff out of a different song, and it would never work in a million years. But I do hear a lot of bands where you could just kind of interchange the riffs because they play at the same tempo every time. But yeah, we just try to play some doom-influenced funk.
When you're big on the guitar, you know, to take you back to that, you know, how did you starting like the instrument, you know, what leads you to pick up a guitar, you know, in the first place? And
well, I started playing guitar when I was 14.
yeah.
It was just something I wanted to do for some reason. And I was into metal and rock when I was a kid. So that's where I started, with Def Leppard's Foolin'. That was the first song I ever learned on guitar, first rock song.
Okay.
I think the second song, well, the other song I learned was Jingle Bells. Those would be my first lessons, working on a Def Leppard song and working on Jingle Bells. In our early 20s back then, and you know, it was before the days where music was easily accessible. You know, our view of the musical world really didn't start to evolve until we went on tour. You know, I'd never listened to every single Black Sabbath album, or I'd never really heard too much from the Allman Brothers or jammy type stuff. I'd never heard, you know, Miles Davis or John Coltrane. You know, those are influences that just kind of came in while we were on tour. You know,
Yeah,
we had the
right
time
on.
to sit in the van and listen to music and think about music, and I think a lot of it, you know, any kind of musician will evolve if they go on tour and just work on it full time.
You say like you like to change amps a lot of time, but it seems like you like to change guitar as well. Because I remember seeing you with like, was that Les Paul, like maybe standard, like a Les Paul Junior with P90s, you know, like SGs, like you seem to stick with Gibson, like maybe between SG and Les Pauls, but you change from tour to tours, like.
Yeah, I think I've decided that my hands aren't big enough to play Gibson Les Paul custom shop Les Pauls, which are my favorite sounding guitars of all time, the 58, 59 reissues. I love those things, they sound so great. But my hands are just too small to play those things live. I mean, I can play them, but I feel like, you know, I'm struggling the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
SGs, definitely love them, absolutely love playing them. I recently I got myself a real Les Paul Jr., 1959 Les Paul Jr., and I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm looking forward to playing that on the next tour. I almost brought it over here, but I decided not to. It's absolutely amazing. If I'm ever rich, I'm going to get a real 50s Les Paul custom, because you could find those for not real. I mean, they're absolutely absurdly priced, but compared to, you know, a real 59, it's like, you know, it's considerably cheaper. But for some reason, Paul Reed Smith has decided to give me a couple free guitars.
Okay.
And I've been playing PRS SC245s on this tour.
Okay.
They built a guitar for me. It's basically, I guess what I actually ended up ordering was similar to the Mark Tremonti model. The neck is the same as the Mark Tremonti, but the rest of it is just the normal SC245 that they do. So I've been playing that on this tour. It's definitely super fun to play. I love playing Paul Reed Smiths. They're great company. The artist rep is so awesome. So I've been trying to make that work. Last year I bought, I guess it was actually this year, I bought 2 guitars off Gibson. One of them was the just a regular Les Paul Standard, just the regular Gibson USA Les Paul Standard, 2016, right? I would have to say that might be the best sounding Gibson I've ever owned.
Yeah.
You know, I've owned like, I do love the 58 and 59 reissues. They're awesome, but man, this thing is
Was
awesome.
the traditional line or the HP line with like the automatic tuner and stuff like that, you know?
It originally came with the, no, it wasn't the automatic tuners.
It
It
was
came
the
with the
T line.
locking tuners. It came with locking tuners.
Yeah,
I changed out the
T line.
tuners. I changed out the tuners, changed the, changed out the nut as well. I had to do
Yeah,
that.
because it's like a plastic and you want bone.
But God, you open it up and it's like made out of plastic. It has like plastic components in it, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. For some reason, it sounds absolutely amazing. It's my favorite sounding Les Paul I've ever owned. And I also got a newer. I also bought a custom shop SG from them as well, and it is by far my favorite SG to play that I've ever owned in my entire life.
Obviously, like there's a famous sound clutch, like the wah-wah sound, like you play a lot, you know.
Yeah, I usually have a wah up there, some kind of filter, and then I use the Line 6 DL4 delay. Probably one of my favorite effects ever. Sometimes I implement it, sometimes I don't. I haven't used it a lot lately, but the reverse effect on the DL4 is definitely one of my favorite effects ever. I love using that in jams and stuff. And I think I used it a couple times on maybe Earthrocker. I don't think I used it on Psychic Warfare though.
And the wah, you got like specific model you like, or?
No, not necessarily. Well, actually, my favorite wahs are the RMC Real McCoy Customs.
Okay.
I don't have one on tour with me right now, though. The guitarist from Valiant Thor broke his custom audio wah. And I had a custom audio wah on my pedal board, so I just gave that to him and put up my backup with, which is just a Jerry Cantrell reissue. Sounds good, but it doesn't feed back enough for me. That's one of the things I like about wah pedals is you can click them on and make them feed back, which I need for a couple of our songs. The Cantrell doesn't really feed back that much.
It's like a tweaked Crybaby with more modern voicing, maybe. Or,
Yeah, with maybe a little bit less of a range, I would say, than a Crybaby. But it still works out great. But the only thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't feed back. And one of my go-to effects is the Electro Harmonix Micropog.
Oh yeah.
That's super fun to play.
And so about the ham situation, so I saw them like just being put on stage on my way up. So there was like an Orange OR50 and a JCM 800 on stage, like on cabs that I don't know the brand of. So are you running like those two at the same time, split, you know, like you split your signal with two heads at the same time? Or?
Yes, I'm just running them both at the same time.
Okay.
About equal volume. The cabs are Mad Amp cabs.
What do you like to blend from the Orange and the Marshall together, you know, like?
It just sounds good on stage to me, and I know our sound guy likes to have different options, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's better for him to have two mics than it is to have one mic, and it's better for him to have two different sounds coming out of that mic so he could blend them together and get something that sounds good. Playing the two heads is just something I've always done since the early days of the band. It just fills up the stage a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. And you always like mix two different type of heads, or?
Well, it's been a little while now, but Orange was nice enough to give us some free stuff, so I was just playing exclusively orange stuff. So I was playing one of the OR100s along with one of the rocker verb,
Yeah.
one of their newer rocker verbs. So I was doing that for a little while. I got kind of bored with that. So, yeah, I'm trying to blend more of a Marshall tone back into it as well.
And I've seen also like a GCM 900 on the back. It's just like a backup, or
That's a backup, yeah. I mean, I've gone through, you know, I've played JCM 900s on albums and on tours, and those have been in and out of, you know, in and out of a lot over the years, you know.
yeah, okay.
I think the last time I played a JCM 900 was the Earth Rocker era. I actually played one on the album as well.